Hello, and welcome to the Random Horror Show. I am your horror podcast hostess, Keisha Lacey, and thank you for joining me tonight as we are going to be randomly talking and commentating and being silly and stuff with The Hunger, the 1983 film with Catherine Deneuve, the late, great, iconic David Bowie, and also, damn it, Janet, I love you, Susan Sarandon. And of course, here at the Random Horror Show, where we being silly, commentating, goofy as hell, but we get back to the main idea in horror, science fiction, fantasy, cult classics, in movies, television shows, and books. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. And it's still hot as balls in Texas. This damn heat wave is just keep blazing all through across the United States and probably parts of all over the world and everything else like that. I know we have swamp ass, swamp balls, humidities, uh, broken dreams and promises. People are melting. We try not to melt. And everything else down here in Texas, and of course, is coming straight up out of the Iron Pine Curtain of East Texas. So there you go. But let's get into The Hunger. Yes, The Hunger. The Hunger is one of those very avant-garde vampire fantasy films that actually had a place of its own. And there's not a lot of avant-garde, very artsy, stylized horror movies like The Hunger. It may be a few. I haven't really seen too much of it, but it actually has a place of its own. There's a lot of dialogue in it. There's a lot of for people, the audience, to really get into the characters and understand the characters. It is really slow pace, within this movie, so everybody can like actually understand. There's not like really like very much of like a lot of like blood and gore and things like that, but it's just more of the haunting and the horror that it presents like in a psychological way, to where The Hunger actually stands out a lot in during the 80s. Now this is like the really big heydays of like the 80s. We had our slasher films, Friday 13th. This movie came out 2 years after The Evil Dead. There was a lot of big time slasher movies that was coming out. You had The Howling. I think it was around this time, either 81, 83, that The Howling came out, or Howling 2. It was somewhere in between there. So you had all of those movies that was like they was churning out, during that time. But what stood out about The Hunger is not only it was very sleek and very stylish, with how beautiful the characters are, especially David Bowie with his good looking self, very iconic, like in his music. He has like this, during the time, you had like all these different personas, Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, all of that right there. Oh my God. Oh, that man was churning out some beautiful music and everything. And he had some like, he had some interesting times. And he was also in a film called The Man Who Fell from Earth. I seen that. David Bowie is very famous because of his eye, which everybody heard the story. He got popped in the eye, his iris and everything. That's a discoloration. The iris like color left. That's the reason why his eye, it looks like he has a glass eye, but it's actually his real eye and everything. He was also married to the beautiful Amon. I remember her. She was in Miami Vice and everything. This one episode where she was about to like she was about to kill she was about to kill Tubbs and stuff. That was real crazy. But Iman, she also been in like plenty of movies, and she's like this beautiful model back in the 80s and in the 90s and everything. They fell in love. David Bowie is very, very popular, but his passing was very untimely. You know, back in 2015, I cried when David Bowie passed away. And also with Susan Sarandon, even though we've seen her in plenty of movies, I think it was was it Bull Durham or something with Kevin Costner? Not only she's a vampire in this movie, but her ex-husband who played the sweet and charismatic, gorgeous Jerry in Fright Night. Yes, she is the ex-wife of Chris Sarandon who played on Fright Night and Child's Play. So that's pretty cool. You have your exes playing vampires. You know what I'm saying? He played Jerry Fright Night 1985 while she plays a vampire in this movie as Dr. Sarah in The Hunger. Well, let's go ahead and get started. The intro is like beyond amazing. I have not seen an intro this of this magnitude. That was the best intro of this movie. Well, it's pulling us in. We feel that vibe, that sexiness. You had Bauhaus performing, Bela Lugosi is dead, you got Peter Murphy and stuff, cuts you up. Yeah, I used to jam on that song when I was in junior high. Him and Susie and the Banshees and everything. That was like a really great period. And Bauhaus was really popular and everything because, they had like that very gothy sound, but also very punk rock, just like Susie and the Banshees. But yeah, I love Susie and the Banshees and Bauhaus and all that. I grew up with that music. Gladly that I did and everything, because guess what? I mean, but I wouldn't be a DJ. So we had like that beautiful, over the top, and like I said, I have not seen a movie that had like a beginning. Well, Ghost Ship had one, but they didn't have Bauhaus in it. Okay, come on now. So it is very unique with this opening scene. You had John and Miriam seeking out their meal for tonight. It was very stylized and just beautiful with it because they're playing with their food. It's very sexy, getting them all aroused and seducing them. And then you had Peter Murphy, singing Bela Lugosi. And then you had the baboon that was ripping one of the other baboons like ass apart. So you had like this baboon ripping this other baboon to shreds. You see the blood, you see the gore and the just juiciness of it. And then you had Peter Murphy just being seductive with Bela Lugosi. And then you had Catherine Deneuve and David Bowie's characters killing this really like punk rockish couple, like all in this same sequence, just happening at the same time. That is like the most explosive intro right there. And then the story unfolds of where Susan Sarandon's character Sarah, she's a doctor, she is a blood pathologist, and she is trying to find this cure or find the slowing process for progeria, whatever you want to pronounce it, tomatoes. This is a disease where it's a mysterious illness disease that has happened really in real life. We had a guy named Mickey who in Texas, he had progeria. He died at 18, but she was explaining like how it hits younger kids from 3 or 4 years old. They start aging, like progressively aging like little, they start looking like little old men and little old women. The last person that passed away from progeria, I believe he lived up to 21 years old. They don't live very long and everything from this really mysterious, dreadful disease. They try to have like as much normalcy with this, as much as they can, because they know they're going to have a very short life, from this disease that's, aged them very, very rapidly. Well, after John had, they did their kill with a young couple, they usually, put them in an incinerator and burn them and stuff, their victims, so they won't get caught. He started to notice that he is aging a little bit. He's pulling lots of hair out. He's having weird dreams. He can't sleep at night. And he was asking Miriam, like, what's going on? And he's like, I thought it was forever. She's like, it is forever. She was lying to him. Well, he was watching the TV, and Miriam was reading a book of Dr. Sarah's, what she's have been finding, her, experiments and things like that within the blood pathology of finding, different type of cures and how to combat it. And she starts to be very interested. Miriam starts to be interested in Sarah. So he was like, you know what, since I see her on TV, I read her book, it's just crap and everything, but I'm going to go down there. He goes down to the clinic. He grabs her, grabs her arm. And I was just like, whoa, motherfucker, you don't be grabbing on somebody's arm like that and you asking for help. And she's like, I got to be in a meeting, 15 minutes, I get with you, have a seat and everything. While he was sitting down, his like aging process just in the span of 2 hours, he became like a 70-something-year-old man. We see him 30 some years old. Of what he said, he's probably like around at least about 200 years old, because he got turned by Miriam around like 1700s. That's the reason why they're very classically trained. He plays the cello, she plays the piano. They have a young girl that has violin lessons with them, and he is really frantically seeking for answers. He knows that he can't believe that, like, okay, I'm a vampire, but why is this happening? Miriam was not letting him know of what has really happened to a lot of her lovers. He knows a little bit about one of them, but he was just like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna be forever, this is not gonna happen. But she sees the pain in John's eyes. She does go to the clinic to talk to, you know, Dr. Sarah, and she's very curious, but she also falls in love because really she sees that John is being affected by this, and so she's actually going out hunting for another lover. John actually feels this and everything. He's just like, okay, I know she's trying to help me, but I see what she's really doing, but he does not speak upon it. Um, he also, he's not dead, because the whole procession of like him getting old, he falls down the stairs. He does something the unthinkable with the little 14-year-old girl that they was giving violin lessons. She puts him upstairs, like in a box, like a coffin. And so, though he is suffering and aging, because it's not going to stop, she puts him in this box and just leaves him there. So she sets her eyes on Sarah. Sarah is very curious, because John came in. She was very concerned about him. She goes by the home. She meets Blaylock. She meets Miriam. They call themselves like husband and wife and everything. She meets Miriam, and she is very, taken back by her beauty, her poise. Very, Miriam is very classy. I mean, she is like a very elegant vampire. She really is. I mean, also these vampires can walk through the day. They look like us. They're not affected by the sunlight like unusual, like usually like in vampire lore. But these vampires can actually walk during the daytime and nighttime, so it doesn't bother them at all, the sunlight. And they also can drink liquor and things like that, so it's not how they present like a lot of vampires that don't drink, like regular, human, foods and consumptions and things like that and everything else. So Miriam is seducing Sarah because she actually has set her sights on Sarah long ago. And so they had this very, how would I put it, this really breezy, beautiful cover girl, lesbian sex scene, where they both exchange each other's bloods. And of course, like during that time, it was very taboo to show, uh, lesbian sex scenes in movies. And the only time, if you really going to see that type of like little jam, sexy time between two women, it's like you have to go to porn. But the way how this director did, it was very classy. It wasn't like they're just slobbing on each other's like tits and diving, downtown. We gotta go downtown. It was very stylized. It was very very appropriate and everything else. I mean, I guess, because I know the director was probably like, I don't want to get like an NC-17, rating on this, so I'm just gonna make it to where it's very visual. You get the whole understanding about these women having like this beautiful, sexy time exchange and exchange of blood. So Sarah is like having all kinds of hallucinations. She's really having a time of, having a time during dinner with her boyfriend, who is played by Clifton Young. Clifton Young actually was in this movie called The Watchers with Corey Haim. And you've seen him in a whole bunch of other stuff too. If y'all want to look up Clifton Young, he's in a lot of movies. And Clifton Young was just like, his character was like, what y'all doing over there? Yeah, she's like, I was just girl talking and everything. And she was just like, I ain't trying to break girl code. And he was like, still, you talking a whole bunch and everything. What done happened? You all off and you ain't talking and you're not eating your steak. It's medium rare. And she's sitting up there looking at this swimming pool with these women, and I mean, they had bikinis, but she was just imagining them, you know butt naked, and having like these beautiful, like kisses and hugs, and embracing each other and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, oh, Miriam, and and my girl done clap cheeks and everything. But he didn't want to say it, but he was just like, come on with it, girl. Y'all both clap cheeks. Y'all both clap them cheeks and everything. But he was very upset. He really was. So Sarah goes back, and she was like still having these hallucinations. She's having all these problems and stuff. He also took some of her blood to see if she was okay. Come to find out that since their blood exchange during that night that she went over to Miriam's house, that Miriam's blood is mixed in with hers. And he was like, okay, you have this alien foreign blood in you, and what's going on, and yada yada yada. So she goes back, she asks Miriam, what is going on? Why do I have this blood in me? What's the deal, pickle? She was like that. So Miriam was explaining to her that, like, look, I'm a little different. I'm not human, but I'm a little different, baby. You know what I'm saying? What I gave to you, you good. I have to teach you how to, like, to control your hunger. I'm gonna have to teach you to hunt and everything else. Sarah was really, really pissed off. um, she realized that Miriam was just not just some classy, elegant lady, but Miriam threw her ass against that wall and stuff. She's like, oh, okay, I ain't gonna mess with Miriam and stuff, because she pretty strong. Not strong, but strong. So she runs out the house, and she is trying to call her boyfriend. She's trying to, she's in a panic because she's sweating. She's looking like a damn meth head. She had that dang plastic coat on, at the phone booth, and she leaves And guess who was there at the phone booth? It was a very young Willem Dafoe. I was like, Willem Dafoe, what's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? But she goes back to the house because really the only person that can help her is actually Miriam. Miriam does lure somebody in. Um, Sarah is just like completely just like, oh my God, this is what you really do. She couldn't like handle it, but she didn't drink the blood from the victim that Miriam has lured. So she's in bed, hunched over, sweating and everything, like she detoxing and stuff like that, like she at a clinic or something for at the methadone clinic. She looked like a methadone clinic patient and everything. Her boyfriend finds her, and he is trying to get her to come. He's gonna help her and stuff. Bad things happen. She kills her boyfriend because the hunger was too much for her. She had to murder him. And then, of course, the surprise ending, what happened. And then you see Sarah looking out on the balcony. She has two lovers, a guy who's playing on the piano and a very young girl, and they give an exchange a kiss, and she's looking out, into the big, beautiful city, waiting and searching for her prey. The hunger is not only about like just the vampire lore, it's also about control and codependency. Miriam has a codependency of having a lover with her. Um, she's not the type of vampire that just be, to themselves. You have Marius, like from Anne Rice novels, Lestat and everything else, because like you have Lewis, who actually like went solo like after the death of Claudia. But Miriam is actually a codependent vampire. It seems like she just cannot live just be to herself for a little bit long, maybe like 100 years to herself, but she has to have somebody. She also lies to her lovers in the past that she has turned, that they have the same powers as her and immortality, but really they don't. And she tries so hard to like convince herself that like, okay, they're gonna last. Okay, well, this fifth person and everything didn't last, but I think the sixth person did. So it was like playing Russian roulette with like these people's lives that she met during these different centuries that she has turned, and the same results happen. There's also her keeping them inside of these coffin, these little crypts and everything, and she actually kept all of them, like a serial killer who keeps something of like their kill as a trophy. And that's what she was doing. She was collecting these lovers like trophies, even though they have they aged a lot, just like progeria, like what is explained of why Sarah was trying to find this cure for progeria. She was also on that search to like make sure that her lovers stay same as beautiful, young, immortal, just like her. But it just ends up as the same bullshit ever. They get old and super old. They don't die. They always beg her to end their life because they don't want to suffer, but she just refuses to do that. And I was like, wow, bitch, that's really selfish of you, Miriam. That's very selfish of you to be very selfish like that, because they want their lives to end. They don't want to be inside of a dark box for like 200, 300, 400 years while they can hear you with another lover. They can hear you. And that was like her haunting. But with Miriam and like Sarah, they were both the same, but they have a different outcome because Miriam had the hunger just not only for her bloodlust of like draining people, trying to keep her beautiful and immortal, but her hunger to have a companion with her that is actually going to stay with her forever. While Sarah, her companion with her boyfriend, who was actually a doctor with her, it wasn't really like it was an okay relationship, but it just wasn't like her interest. But mostly her hunger was searching for this cure. And when the baboon went crazy and ripped the other baboon to pieces, it pissed her off because she was just like, wow, this baboon was making so much progress, and then all of a sudden just goes crazy, and they had to put the baboon down. So she was hungry to for this knowledge because she knows she's going to make this breakthrough and actually stop the process of progeria that is happening with young adults, to make sure they have like a betterment in life and to get them well, instead of like having this very terrible, aging degenerate disease, to where they life expectancy is like at a very young age. They both had a hunger like that, but with Sarah's hunger for that, even though she met Miriam through John, because he was, and she met Miriam also at the place whenever Miriam came into the hospital, that she was intrigued by her, she was intrigued by John. And so with this both of these stories, merging together and everything, where Miriam thought she was going to have like, oh, I get to have my cake and eat it too, she didn't. But it was Sarah that actually overpowered the hunger, and she can control the hunger. It's metaphoric. It really is. It's very metaphoric. With this in this movie, it's very metaphoric, and it's like one of those like acquired tastes for this movie to like really understand the whole storyline, how the characters, interact with each other, and also I was gonna say Dan Hadia, if I pronounce his name right, he is actually a detective in this movie. It was like really cool to see him in this movie because he always like played like really obnoxious, bad guy characters, good guy characters and stuff. And when I seen him in here, I was like, oh, I forgot he was in here and stuff. But that was pretty cool to see him in this movie. But the hunger, like I said, is very stylized, it is very visual, it is avant-garde. It stands alone in the horror genre of being like this very artistic piece, especially with the vampire lore. Also with the aging of John, it was pretty good prosthetics what they did with David Bowie, except for when he got out into the light and everything. It did kind of cracked a little bit and stuff, when he was aging from 30 to like 70 something years old. But I liked how they played a lot with the shadows in this movie. There was like a lot of contrast, especially with Sarah's apartment versus Miriam and John's home. um, just beautiful, just psychologically, like how you had a lot of the lighting, you had a lot of these sceneries of Miriam's home. You have like the old world mixed in with the new world. It was just really beautiful. It is, and I'm gonna say it like this. I'm just gonna, no cap on this. It is a very acquired taste to watch The Hunger. But anyways, Thank you for listening to my commentary on The Hunger. Like I said, is a very acquired taste. Go check it out, especially if you want something a little bit different from your typical vampire lores. And that is it from the Random Horror Show, and have a good night.